Welcome to The Real Game, a podcast by coaches for coaches. I am your host, Matt Philbrick. Welcome back to this episode of The Real Game. It's good to be back in the saddle today, or in my case, in the lawn chair. After being gone for a couple of weeks, I am going to jump right into things here today and introduce my guest to you in just a moment. As I've mentioned multiple times throughout the 15 previous episodes of this podcast, I do coach at a small Christian school in southeastern Pennsylvania. And throughout that time of coaching, I've been coaching here on and off for the last 13 years. I've gotten to know some of the other coaches in the league. It's a pretty small league. There's, year to year, it just depends, but anywhere from 10 to 13 other teams and other coaches to get to know. But I'm excited to have a couple of my fellow coaches on with me tonight. First of all, Colin Fisher from Westchester Christian Academy in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and Brian Barth from Upper Bucks Christian School in Sellersville, Pennsylvania. So it's good to have each of you on the show. Welcome. I have enjoyed not just the coaching rivalries and stuff, but the opportunity to get to know you guys and really consider you as friends. And I know when we're on the basketball court, we're coaching against each other, but in the game of life, there definitely are bigger things at stake. And I think we're all on the same page there, trying to accomplish the same thing. So it's good to have each of you on here. Colin, I'm going to start with you. Just introduce yourself briefly. Tell me a little bit about your coaching journey, where you started and where you're at now. And I will say, for the audience that can't see you, that you look like you're about 15 years old.
Well, thank you, Matt. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invite. My name is Colin Fisher. So I'm actually only about 3 years into my coaching journey. So still very new. I always knew I wanted to coach. My dad was a coach for like 25 plus years, and he really was the one who kind of inspired me and got me into coaching. As a senior in high school, I was actually the assistant coach for the middle school team, just trying to get involved in any way I could. But ultimately now working in the corporate world, I never thought I would get a chance to coach this early in life. But the year was 2020. I was 24 years old and working from home because of COVID. And that's really when I got the call, and everything worked out from there. Work allowed me to be flexible. And I really haven't looked back. So it's only been 3 seasons, but it's been such a roller coaster. Every season has been so different in its own way. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I hope we can keep it going here for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And in those 3 seasons, you've experienced a lot of great things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you won a championship your first year. Last year, I know it was rough for you with some injuries and stuff like that. You had a great season this year, and we're back in the championship game again. So you've really enjoyed some success in a short amount of time there.
I try. I mean, great guys. I can definitely get into more of the details. But it's just been so much fun, even through the ups and downs, just like being able to stick with these guys.
Sure.
I made one comment to the guys earlier this season that is kind of stuck in their mind. It's like, I would rather lose with you guys than win with anybody else. And I mean that. And I think that's been true for even them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brian, let's move on to you. You've been there at Bucks for a little bit longer than Colin has been at Westchester. I'm not sure exactly how long that's been, but tell us and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you started coaching and what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the time, and it's always good to hang out with friends. Like you said earlier, we coach against each other, but there's also the friendship there, and that's just as valuable to me. So I actually had the opportunity to start coaching as an assistant coach with our middle school team. There was an opening, my job schedule worked out in such a way that I could help. I wasn't looking to get into coaching. I'd always had good coaches throughout my years of playing. So I always remembered the value and skills and just the challenges that they brought to me. So when this opportunity came up to help in the middle school, I jumped on it. And probably about 2 years after that, the varsity coach asked for some help as well. So I was trying to balance in middle school and varsity. And then the one season, our varsity coach ended up having a job change. And so I was asked to step in as the varsity basketball coach for that one season. And that one season has now, I think this is my 8th year coming up. So it's kind of been a joy, a pleasure. Again, it wasn't the path I was looking for, but I'm glad I was on this path. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I'm glad I got the opportunity. And so it's been about 8 years now.
Okay, excellent. So none of us coach at big schools, like probably range in the 150 to 3 something range. So in terms of schools, that's not real big. We each have challenges from year to year that come with that. Brian, what are some of the biggest challenges you face season to season with your guys or your teams?
Yeah, I'd say one of the challenges obviously is it's a different era. So there's a lot of technology now that these kids have that we didn't have growing up. So I found that to be sometimes the kids are more interested in that than putting maybe the time in the off season. Also, when you have a smaller school, a lot of your athletes play multiple sports, and so some years it's just hard to get them to commit to all the sports. It's different challenges, whether it's family or just maybe academics, things like that. And then, and lastly, I think one of the challenges too is sometimes just the kids lose a little bit of interest, and they might take a season off, and then all of a sudden regain that fire and come back. So the challenge can be at times just from a continuity. You want to have them each year, so there's that growth. And when you have those gap years, it just hurts them a little bit and also hurts the team. So each year you try to reach out to them at the end of the season, almost do like an exit interview unofficially, just to try to get it. And that's just probably the best way I've learned to do it, is try to get that general commitment so you kind of know how to plan.
Okay. Yep. What about you, Colin? What are some challenges that you face from year to year in your short time coaching there?
Well, you mentioned a range of like 150 to 300 students. We're not even at the low end of that range. So, our biggest challenge is always the pool of players. Mm-hmm. Our high school really is not growing. So it's very rare to get a new player coming into our school. So really sustaining a solid program year after year becomes challenging. And then if you think about going into an off season and trying to get guys to continue playing, if my pool of players is only maybe 7 or 8 strong, we're just going to be more limited in what we can do. Now, being low on numbers has never been an excuse for us, and we will never let it be. But from the standpoint of trying to build something sustainable year after year, you can't be wondering whether you're going to field a team. So that definitely is the biggest hurdle. Yeah.
That must be challenging. I know the pool of guys here isn't that big, and our school is much larger. So it must be challenging from year to year to wonder if you're going to have a team, who's going to be coming out, who you're going to have to beg to come out so that the other guys can play. We've all been there and been down that road before. So you use the word rare a minute ago, and I want to say what's rare about your team, Colin, is ever since I've been here, you've had a Gingery boy on your team since I can remember. And I literally started here in 2010, and there were guys on the team then, and they're still there. So it's pretty rare for 13 years to have a brother of the same family playing on the same basketball team, man. What is going on? Like, give us a break, okay?
I love it. I love that family. And to put into context, there's 8 boys in the family. And I got the privilege of playing with 3 of the older boys at some point. And now I've gotten the privilege of coaching 3 of the younger ones. Yep. I've been around them for a long time. That's
awesome, though. It's a good problem to have. So, what are you guys? And Brian, you probably, you'll know the answer to this. Maybe a little bit better than Colin, but Colin, you maybe things are a little more fresh in your mind since you're younger. But Brian, what do you think some of the differences are in players now versus when you played in high school?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to one of the points I mentioned earlier. I think one of the biggest I've known is just the advancements in technology. There's so many more draws on the kids' time and just how they allocate it. I mean, we all have 24 hours in our day, so it's just how you spend it. It's just what I've noticed is it's just that technology piece, which it's a great option to have. It's just how you use it. But I've noticed a lot of kids, that just seems to be a draw for them. And so when you talk about, downtime, what do you do? We grew up, I played soccer and basketball. I always hit a ball either on my foot or in my hand, where now it's just a different, and I didn't have the draw these kids have. So it's hard to say I wouldn't have done the same, but there's definitely that to me is the biggest factor.
Okay. All right. Colin, what do you see?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with what Brian mentioned. I think when the question comes up, like, how is it different now? I do think it's easy to criticize. I think there's always going to be a sense from older people that thinks it's not as good now as it once was. We hear that a lot, and I think it's natural, but yeah, I don't think that's always fair to these guys coming in. I do think it's different, but maybe that's not always a bad thing, right? Like Brian mentioned, there may be more priorities, competing for guys' time and attention. And maybe guys might be more interested in, say, getting a job or pursuing some other interest or hobby or sport. And I think, too, it's sometimes can be hard to put your finger on how things like COVID or social media or politics are shaping them as well. So I definitely think that what they value is different now. And we have to be, in my opinion, open to that and adapting to that. For example, they might not be spending the summer working on their game because of work or other interests, but maybe that's okay. Maybe they're doing something right. I think it's good to encourage them to, say, work on their game, but at the same time, trying not to pressure them if that's not truly where their interests lie. So it's really a tough balance, but it certainly is different overall.
Yeah, I agree with you both. And I think what is going to make us good coaches in the end is to adapt our coaching styles and how we coach to fit the kind of athlete that we're getting, regardless of what kind of athlete that is, right? I mean, we have to play with the hand that we're dealt. We can't always change that or fix it if we feel like it's broken, which it probably isn't. Like Colin said, it's just different. So in some good ways and some not so good ways. So great points from both of you. All right, shifting a little bit to actual basketball here. Colin, tell us about one of your biggest coaching challenges, whether it's a season that you had to deal with or a specific game that sticks out in your mind, something that was a challenge that really stretched you as a coach.
Well, we could be here all night talking about that.
Yeah,
every season has its challenges, I'm sure, for you as well. I would point to my second year of coaching just being so extremely difficult. So we were, like you mentioned, we were fortunate to have a lot of success in my first year. But coming off of that, we lost two very strong senior leaders. And then into my second year, we had 7 players. 3 of them were freshmen. Some of them haven't played in 2 years. We had internal player conflict. We had injuries. We were losing to teams by double digits consistently. So it just was very demoralizing. It was not fun. The guys didn't want to show up. They weren't enjoying it. And that was really challenging as a coach to try to keep them motivated. They probably got sick of me just trying to continue to encourage them to not give up, to keep working hard, and that ultimately these trials were going to make us stronger, even though we may not see the results this year. We didn't qualify for any of our end of season tournaments. The season dragged on and we just couldn't wait for it to end. But really, I'm so thankful for those guys and what we went through, because they ultimately responded and they chose to use that as a learning experience and as motivation to work harder and to get better. And then going into my third season as coach, they really pushed themselves and turned things around. And had we not gone through that challenging experience together, I'm convinced that we would not have had as much success as we did the next year, just using that as an opportunity to grow. So it's easy to look back now and kind of see the fruits of that labor, but man, in the moment, that was very emotionally and physically draining for everybody.
Yeah, that's for sure. I remember I think it was when we played you at your place. We were standing over there by the bleachers, and you were, reminiscing a little bit about last year and then comparing it to this year. And a comment you made to me that sticks out in my mind, it was, you said the guys are having fun again. Like, we're having fun again. So last year, I could see how that could be draining and just not a good time at all. And you probably were anxious to get to the end, but it was great to see your guys turn it around and the success that you enjoyed this season. So good job on that. And good job on your part to keep the guys focused and coming back and just not letting them quit through that adversity,
Absolutely. There was one point at the end of that second season where we actually had a choice, like whether we wanted to be submitted into one of end of season tournaments. And I got a lot of pressure to not go forward with that just because of our record and everything. And I said, absolutely not. Like, if we have a chance to play, we're doing it because we know we're going to grow and we're going to learn. And it was terrible. We lost by 30 points, but I was not about to give up in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Good job. Way to be persistent there. That's great. Brian, what about you?
Yes, our challenge was a few years back when we had won the championship that season. We had a pre-season chat, and I'm always big on just trying to stay connected with the guys in the off season. And so we had a couple of chats, and there was definitely some expectations, but our school hadn't won a championship in years, and so there was potential there, but obviously potential only goes so far. And so we made it through the season, and ironically, every team the only couple of losses we had was all the teams we ended up lining up against in the playoffs. And so we just had to have another family chat and just say, guys, listen, the potential is there. We were in those games during the regular season. We just didn't get it done. But, there were spurts there where you guys showed it. But let's try to bring a complete game. And I actually changed my pregame discussions with those guys and just really simplified it. Because sometimes as a coach, you can almost overwhelm them, right? With just all these different things, offense, defense, run this, run that. And sometimes it's just, guys, let's just keep this simple. It's basketball. You love to play the game. I love to coach it. We love being together. Let's just have some fun and just play. And so as we went to the playoffs, we matched up against one team that we lost. We beat them, and then we matched up against another team on that Friday night, and we ended up beating them in double overtime. But our guys were exhausted, and I knew that. And so when we hit the Saturday game, we matched up against the team that was undefeated all season, and that was probably the shortest pregame I ever had. And we just said, "Hey guys, just go have fun, just enjoy it." Right? I mean, we've not been here in I think almost 30 years since they last won a championship. And I give the guys credit. They just went out there and played and just worked hard. And you just saw them come together. And for a couple of those guys, it was probably their best game of their career. And, just pulled it out. And I couldn't have been more proud of them. And just to see the families and all that, all those families, obviously the families put a lot of time in behind the scenes as well to help get those kids where they need to be and all the different things that goes along in the family dynamic. And it came together, but that was definitely a challenge to just keep guys motivated. Just because we lost to them the first time doesn't mean we're going to lose again. And just, you kind of almost have to be a cheerleader, so to speak, just to try to keep it as much mental as physical as far as getting prepared.
Yep. And that's a good segue into my next question with both of you guys. Of the three of us have all coached against each other in big games. Colin, you and I have had some big games this past year. Brian, you and I have had some big games. You two have had big games against each other. So we'll start with you, Colin. What are some things you do to help you get your guys and keep them focused heading into a big game?
Sure. Yeah, it's such a good question. I actually think I'm going to turn the question around a little bit because I really think that it's natural for guys to be more focused going into a big game. Like, you don't need to remind them. So to be honest, like, where I try to really keep them focused is in the day-to-day, the next practice, the next game, easy team, harder team, none of that matters. And just focus on the here and now, being your best right now. And in my opinion, if you do that for the easy games, then the bigger games will take care of themselves. So it's funny. Sometimes guys get a kick out of, like, they'll always ask me, like, "Hey, who are we playing next Thursday?" And I'm just like, focus on tonight. Like, just get through tonight's game and let me worry about next week.
Right.
So that's one aspect. But I do think, like, when it does come time for a bigger game, I really try to get guys to stick to their normal routine. eat normal food, normal times, normal warm-ups. You try to meet as a team at the same times you usually do. Now, obviously, it's never that rigid, but I just like sticking to a general routine that the guys are familiar with and just trying not to deviate too much from that.
That's a great answer. I love your comment, talking about not worrying so much about the bigger picture, but being focused on the day-to-day things. That's great. That's a great point. And there's probably a great spiritual application to make there as well. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, it's funny that Colin almost verbatim, right? I've always been a believer. You try to keep it even, right? Don't get too high, don't get too low. And I feel like if your players are engaged and are aware of, especially once you get into the season, right? You start seeing, okay, this team's one game above us, this team's one below us. Right? The guys in their own way sense and know. And so I've actually learned. In the beginning, I would call it out. In my career, I'd say, oh, guys, this is, and I learned that you almost freak them out and you almost cause more harm than good. And so I just learned to say, hey, guys, listen, we got so-and-so tomorrow night. Here's what we're doing in practice today. And in the pregame, okay, we got a game tonight. And you just don't pump it up too much and you just let it. Now, I will say there's been times during a game where you can see that they're a little on edge where you have to almost call it out at a timeout. But before a game, during the season, I rarely make any type of any excitement or any type of like, wow, we're playing these guys. It's just next man up, next team up, whatever the case might be, and just try to keep it low key because some of these guys, you might lose them if you get it too wild, so to speak.
Sure, yeah. No, that's a good point. I find with my guys, all I have to say is Upper Bucks or Westchester, and all of a sudden they're up for that game. So you guys bring out the competitiveness in them for sure. But no, that's good. Good answer on both your parts. I love rivalries. I think we have good rivalries with you, Brian, at Bucks. Colin, obviously, we've had some great games with you guys in the last few years. I know 2 years ago, you guys beat us at the buzzer in the semifinal game by 1 point. That was an awesome game. And we've had some battles throughout the years, all of us. What are some ways that we as coaches can encourage healthy rivalries on the court, but foster good relationships off the court between players and schools? And Brian, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I grew up in the league, playing in the league, and then obviously I've coached through the league. My kids have played through the league. So, I've appreciated the competitiveness, but also the friendships that I've seen developed through my family. And so I've tried to encourage my guys, listen, we might be competing on the playing surface, but outside of that, these are brothers and sisters that like athletics, have a common faith. And so they're sitting there working on, the same challenges that you are. You all are going through the same things, the same stages of life. So I try to encourage them to be like, hey, listen, I get it. You're competitive, but afterwards, reach out to them. I mean, some of these kids, they're playing in the same leagues together. They might work the same jobs together. Like, don't hold that against them or hold it over them if you won or if you lost. Build that friendship, because I can tell you, I've got friends now that were friends in high school, but on the playing surface, we couldn't have been fiercer, but we also realized and appreciated that there was more to it than just the athletic part.
Absolutely. Yep. Nope. That's a great point. I enjoy, after the game, watching our guys interact together. Colin, I've seen it at your place. I've seen it at Bucks. Even recently at the KCEA tournament, you guys had a tough game. After the game, my guys are out there with your guys taking pictures of each other and, hugging and all that stuff. So it's good to see that the guys can be competitive on the court and just duke it out and battle it out there. But once the game is over, there seems to be an appreciation and a friendship there. So, Colin, what are your thoughts on that?
I literally have a picture on my phone. Somehow I got roped into taking a picture of all like the senior guys from your school, from my school. I was around and they had me snap that. So I actually still have that on my phone.
Nice. Yeah.
It goes right to the point. So yeah, I really think like one key point is getting guys or, trying to encourage guys to play with the right attitude. And there's a difference between having a rivalry that stems from bad blood and bad attitudes towards each other, and then a rivalry that stems from great competition, playing at a high level, and playing in the right way. So, I mean, I can't take credit for, I mean, I have great guys, but I really try to encourage them both to play hard and play right. There's a lot of things in sports that are just out of your control, but you just need to focus on the things that you can control. I try my best not to make it about like beating the other team, but like more about just being the best version of you. And obviously it's been echoed here. You know, we certainly love playing both your teams, and I know you love playing us because we know we're going to get a great game every single time, great effort, but also good attitude. And if we can do that right, yeah, I really think that we've set an example in that way in how to foster really good competitive rivalries, but also friendships off the court.
Yeah, definitely. You both make excellent points. I have appreciated getting to know both of you guys in the time that we've been able to spend together coaching and then, you know, talking at games and tournaments and stuff like that. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing. Before we leave here tonight, though, I want to get a prediction from each one of you about the Sixers and the Celtics matchup that's going on right now. It's 2-2. The Sixers won a tough one today in overtime. Colin, what's the rest of the series going to look like?
Well, coming into into game 4, they had mentioned that the Sixers have been trailing for 89% of the time in the series so far. I mean, I'm a huge Sixers fan. I don't know. My hopes are not up. I think Celtics in 7, but obviously I don't hope that happens.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Brian, what about you? What are your predictions?
Yeah, I'm going to be the typical Sixers fan and believe that we'll pull this out, but I think it's going to go 7 games. I don't see it going any shorter. It just seems like the tough part to me is going to be we struggle in this matchup for some reason, and I feel like if we can just get Embiid and Harden playing consistently, you really don't need maybe a Maxey or Tobias, you know, giving you some points and a little bit off the bench, but it just seems like we go through spurts where we just can't hit a shot. So if we can just, I think, consistently knock down shots offensively, I think we'll pull it out in 7. So Sixers in 7.
All right, well, I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to say Celtics in 6. I think we're going back to Boston. I think we can win the next 2 games, but who knows? Who knows what will happen? But anyways, listen.
Wait a second. What do you mean we? Are you a Boston fan?
I am a Boston fan. I mean, I was born and raised in New England. Those are my roots. So I was actually talking to Colin before you got on here. I said, man, I'm a Celtics fan, but I really do like the Sixers. I grew up liking the Sixers. It was great. Did you guys see the shots of Dr. J today up at the booth watching the game? It was awesome to see him there. But yeah, I'm a Celtics fan. I'll come out on the air and say that to the world. So anyways, to wrap things up here, it's great to have you guys on the show. I appreciate you as coaches, but I appreciate you more as friends. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you guys around.
All right. Thanks for having us on, Matt. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. Let's do this again.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys, and I hope everybody enjoyed listening to today's episode of The Real Game. To wrap it up today, I'd like to read you a section from a motivational strategies booklet on the Proactive Coaching website, and it says this: correction during competition often needs to be immediate, but never needs to be impulsive. No matter how immediate, it should be well thought out and simply repeat phrases or terminology that has already been taught in practice. Athletes should be hearing correction during competition that is rationally thought out. Corrections can be energetic and aggressive, but should be based on fact and not feeling. Play and coach with emotion, but don't let emotion play you. So good luck, coaches, and coach on.